So PID supports different data sources like JDBC we talked about. OLAP is denormalized data. It's an engine of typically JDBC data source you are going to use for transactional operation, whereas the other data model is online analytical processing. So if you want to generate reports out of it, then you will go for OLAP. Again, OLAP we have already covered in the first module, ROLAP and MOLAP. Mondrian is supporting ROLAP. Mondrian is Pentaho's offering. Then metadata. So you can have some metadata, like Pentaho has PME, Pentaho metadata editor. So you can connect to that and use that information for your reporting. Then ETL. So KTL is nothing but PDI. So far we haven't covered PDI, but if you have prepared a ETL job using KTL, using PDI, then you can connect to that PDI job through data source. Then CDA, common data access. So if you have configured, so CDE, CDF, community data framework, is a framework which is developed by community, mainly owned by WebDetails. So WebDetails is one company who's right now officially become part of Pentaho, but previously they were a separate vendor for Pentaho, and they used to build a lot of tools, add-ons for Pentaho. So CDA is one of the offerings from them. It is again one abstract layer of connector, and behind the scene it will in turn connect to different data sources, but from Pentaho, if you want to connect to that end data source, then CDA would be one connector choice for your data. And other than this, there are other data sources like okay, so the MongoDB and big data related stuff. For this module, we are going to cover JDBC. So we will be establishing JDBC connection. We'll see what are the steps, configuring that JDBC connection, and then we're going to use it, consume and pull the data from RDBMS. And we're going to use MySQL as a database. So there are mainly two ways when it comes to JDBC. You might, those who have already worked on Java in data layer, those guys would be familiar with. So JDBC has native support and JDBC JNDI data source. So as a part of curriculum, you learn JDBC, then you learn JNDI. How do you say configure JNDI using JDBC driver, and then how do you connect to JNDI? But practically, which one is recommended? Is it JNDI and JDBC, and why? Okay, so it seems no answers. So practically, definitely JNDI has much upper hand. Oh, I see some response. It's JNDI, correct. That's right, Somesh. So practically, you will always go for JNDI, and the reason is in JDBC, native JDBC, you will always have to give name, username, password, and URL. Whereas in JNDI, it is externalized. So all these credentials, hostname is externalized in JNDI connection. So if it is Java, typically you will configure in, and if it is Java application, you configure it in context.xml, or in metanf you will configure it. If you want that JNDI to be local to your WAR, your web application. In Pentaho, there are, for KTL it is different configuration, for PDI it is different configuration. So for PID we will see in next slides. If you are using Windows, then you can have connection shared through ODBC. So that's the third channel. Basically, how do you establish connection? Now again, This is not too widely used channel, but because Windows is that way pretty popular OS as far as personal usage is concerned, so ODBC option is still there. But typically on production environments, if you are using Windows, then probably you 95% of the time you are not going to use JDBC. But if you are using Java-based application, then you will be using Linux-based servers. Yeah, for our courses, we are going to use MySQL, and you would need to download JDBC driver for MySQL, and that JDBC driver needs to be copied in PID home lib JDBC. So JDBC is a pre-defined folder in PID home lib. So that's where you are going to dump that driver. So make sure you guys download latest driver. It is 5.1.33. Typically, if you go for older driver, so yeah, of course there is a compatibility issue, and which MySQL version you are using, it also depends on that. Current version is 5.6.x, so I believe it is 5.7. So if it is 5.5 and you are using older driver than 5.5, then it may not match, and at runtime you may not be able to execute the queries. So just to avoid that, better to use latest driver, because latest driver will have up to certain extent backward compatibility. Now we are going to, for our example, we are going to cover one small example, which is data which is coming from, again, public data source. So there is a site openflights.org, and they are maintaining flights related data. So let me click and then we'll quickly glance at that site. And I have downloaded that data from this site, and we're going to first import it in our MySQL. Okay, so for this particular session, we're not going to import. That import will be covered in PDI, because that's where ETL kicks in. So right now, you can download the data, and this is TDT file. You will have to create a structure of data tables and import it. So there are conventional ways. You can opt for those conventional ways, and you can import that data, and that database, in fact, in LMS you will find one SQL file. So just import the SQL file. You don't need to worry about how many tables and what type of data. This is just for your reference for today, that we are going to use this particular data. But for your example purposes for PID, you can just import that SQL file and connect to that data source. So this is the data, and there are various ways you can use it. Real time, so yeah, these are all the airports which are denoted by these red dots. So all airports, all airlines, and all timings are available with them. So it's pretty fantastic data available here in the public domain. So you can download, the link is given, JDBC driver, you can download from this site. Again, this is a LMS site, and 5.1.23 is the version of that JDBC. I'm not going to download it now. Now we'll go over how to establish the JDBC connection. Now let me, first you open the PRD, open blank page, blank report. So just click on new, and here we go. So this is blank empty report. Now select the data tab. So go to data tab. So there are two ways. Either you can right click on dataset and then from your JDBC, or you can click here and add data source. So before we come here, there are a set of guidelines how to install MySQL and how to import that SQL file. So that SQL file is also distributed, available. That is already been available. Assumption is that those steps are already done. For simplicity, I am going to show you. So I have logged in with Edureka user and open flight. This is the data which I have imported, and these are the tables. So airline, airport, and route. So these are the three tables, main tables. The rest of the two tables you can see basically they will be used in next modules. Now we came on this. Okay, let me restart. So in case you might have lost the track. So right click on datasets, click on JDBC, and that will land you to JDBC data source dialog. Now here you'll have to first create connection. On the left pane you can see connections. Here there's one pencil icon. So if you will go and select any connection, then that will enable and you can edit it. So this is the existing configuration of sample data MySQL. Now we're going to add new connection. So it's a plus sign. It's a again common icon across all Pentaho products. And okay, so let's quickly visit our slides. So we already covered this. Let's go to this. So these all icons are explained on this slide. So first is edit connection, then plus, green plus is add connection. You can remove the connection. Then again on the right side, so on the left side you are going to add JDBC data source. It can be JDBC, native JDBC or JNDI. On the right side you are going to write the queries. So available queries is the top pane where you will see the list of available queries. On top of that pane you can see again green plus button, using which you can add new queries, then you can remove existing queries, and if you will just select that query will get selected at the bottom and you can edit it. Here at the bottom pane you can see one pencil icon. So that is basically graphical query builder. Yes, you can add. So Madhu is asking whether we can add more than one data sources. Definitely yes, Madhu, you can add more than one data sources. And that's where basically sub-reporting concept kicks in. So if you want to add, you're getting data from multiple feeders, then you can combine them. You can have sub-reporting and you can merge the data accordingly. That is going to be very smart design. At design time, you'll have to take a right decision how to merge that data, because one field is coming from one data source, second would be coming from second data source. So you'll have to map it correctly. So this at the bottom pane, above bottom pane, you can see the pencil icon. So that is that will take you to SQL Designer. So Query Builder, which is GUI tool. So now we will create one connection. Okay, we had already clicked on, let me restart. So we are going to click on plus. So we are adding new connection. Now we are going to click on MySQL. I have already copied the driver. So you will have to do that in your environments. So select MySQL. You can see at the bottom access pane, there are three options. So native, ODBC, JNDI, as we talked about all those three. Now first, just to demonstrate, we will select native JDBC. Let's give the name. Okay, did I give any name here? This is, so edit security is so if you want to provide parameters containing different database connections, authentication credentials, so you can have it in a security configuration. So you just click on edit security, it will pop you one dialog, and you will have to type username and password. So we will use that and click on OK. So this username and password will be available at the time of as a security parameter when you are creating report. Now we will establish new JDBC connection. So select MySQL, and name the connection, name the connections. So as we have seen already, there are multiple connections on the left side, sample data, then sample data hypersonic. So all sample data related stuff is coming out of box along with the distribution. If you want, you can play with that data as well. And that is one automobile industry data, and which has pretty much all the use cases covered. Test day-to-day practical scenarios are covered. So now we are going to cover, so open flights connection is what name given in the example, and we are going to key in these settings. So rather than test, we will say open flights connection, and in the host name, in my case it is localhost. In your case, in case you are using some MySQL server which is running in your environment, then you will have to use that host IP or that host DNS name. In case you are running some virtual machine, then you can use that virtual host ID. Database name, which is open flights. Port number, again default is 3306. If it is customized, go for your customized one. Username, so it is Edureka. Edureka is the one I have kept. So you, as part of MySQL configuration, you will have to create this user as well. And before we say OK, we can test. Boom. So it is creating issue. Oh, so it seems I haven't copied the driver. So I will copy it. Okay, I will have to download. Seems where was the link? Here's the link. So you are supposed to copy the driver under, this is my PRD home, and then in PRD home lib, under lib there is JDBC. So these are existing JDBC drivers already. By the way, this reminded me, so in our previous session somebody was asking, can we use NoSQL for Mondrian? So the answer is yes, we can use, and there is a project which is in incubator status. Okay, so Madhu had asked that question. Yes, Madhu. So we can use that, and right now still the project is in incubator status. If you guys are aware of Apache projects, how do they work? So typically anybody can start a new project that will initially be in incubator status, then it will get graduated to next level, and then top level project, so which is then GA, generally available. So there is a project called Optic, is the project name, OPTIQ, and these guys are trying to build SQL based layer on top of NoSQL database. So once you get that SQL interface using JDBC, that's it. So that is what is required for Mondrian. So although it is going to be challenging, especially when aggregation comes into picture, but at preliminary level, preliminary operations you can perform. So this project you can download its binary or download the source code build. My voice is breaking, just a minute. Is it better? No. Is there any difference? Am I audible to everybody? Okay, so Prashant is saying he can hear me fine. Somesh is saying he can hear me fine. Oh, so Madhu is offline, so not sure if there was issue with Madhu's connection. Okay, so we were discussing about Optic. So yeah, using Optic project, you can establish the connection of NoSQL using JDBC route, and you can use it in your Mondrian. So meanwhile, let's copy this folder, this jar file under JDBC. So this is the path. I have selected PRD home in my case, which is d:/Pentaho. So typically I copy all the Pentaho related stuff under Pentaho folder. So in my case, Pentaho is one extra folder, and then report designer is my PRD home. In your case, it may be different. And under PRD home, there is a lib folder, under lib JDBC folder, and that's where you're going to copy your driver, JDBC driver. Now, once you copy the JDBC driver, you need to restart PRD. So I'm going to you can start report designer.bat because I'm on Windows. On Linux, you guys can install, you can start .sh. Anybody is using Linux? So it is asking me new report. I don't want it. And we are going to open new blank report. Okay, so Prashant is saying I ran into access issues. I'm setting up my Windows. You mean access issues for Pentaho or different access issues? So we'll go to Pentaho. Okay, so probably you can leave your queries, questions to support. And I would like to know what type of specific issues you ran into, because for Linux I have used personally and it works like a charm. So there must be some configuration related stuff. And yeah, so depending on your day-to-day OS which you are using, I have used Linux when I was too nerd. Right now I'm into that maturity phase. I sometimes use Linux. Typically I used to have dual mode machines, but right now since Windows 8 I am getting used to Windows 8. As far as OS is concerned, Linux is stable OS. There are much little overheads. When you come to Windows typically, if it is 3 gig machine, you will hardly get 1.5 GB for your applications. But when it is Linux, everything is configurable. Out of box, it doesn't consume too much resources, and that's where the power lies. Mac is also one good option. And Mac, basically, if it is Mac, I would recommend go for authentic machines, not really using Intel software, Intel hardware, and you are installing Mac OS on top of that. In that case, basically, it's not optimized. But if you go for authentic hardware of Apple, then that is also pretty fast. Okay, so Prashant, you can post this to support. I will connect with support because that to debug. First, let me understand, not at runtime, but I will go through that error, and if required, I might need that Linux environment to try out, because I haven't seen much of the issues. There may be some trivial issues, but you get connected with support, and I will also connect with them. Yeah, so we're going to add data source. We added JDBC driver. Now we will add new connection. We'll give the name open flights. Connection. Then the host name is localhost Edureka. Password is Edureka. Oh, sorry, this is database name. Database name is open flights. Port number is 3306. Oh, sorry, I haven't selected MySQL. That's why, otherwise it will by default select that 3306. Now username is Edureka, password is Edureka, and native JDBC, and then now we're going to test it. Boom. So you can see the first line, connection to database, open flights connection is okay. If it is not okay, then it will give error message. Let's say we remove the S, it won't find database, and it will give error message. Now this is JDB Java based application. They are dumping all the stack trace here. It would have been better if they could have given error. Probably will need to contribute for that. But yeah, sometimes it is good for debugging because it tells you exactly what is the issue. So unknown database, and you can check what is the database name, whether database name is the issue or you are connecting to wrong database. So that helps. So we have hit S, and then we are going to click on OK. So open flights connection is the name. And so here we have added all the settings related parameters. We have tested it and it has said OK, and we can click on final OK. Okay, we already have that connection here, open flight connection. Okay, it seems there are two duplicate, so we are going to remove. This was for demonstration purpose, and we can see exactly what are the parameters we had keyed in. So this is open flights connection. This was existing connection which I had configured for JNDI. Now we are going to check what are the steps in establishing connection for JNDI. We have already seen for JDBC. Now we'll see for JNDI. So in the previous session we were I talked about that .pentaho folder which is getting created in your user home. So user home typically in your C : user home, and these are different folders from created from different applications. So .kettle is from PDI, default properties. You're going to capture JNDI connections. So just open. I'm using Notepad++, which is my favorite editor. And here you will have to add open flights related configuration parameters. So this is what I have added here. Open flights is the name of the JNDI. So open flights / type. Then you are going to give what type of database, what type of source it is. So it is SQL data source. Then driver. So you are going to mention MySQL driver. Then, okay, here I will have to change the username as Edureka. Password as Edureka, and this is your URL, JDBC connection URL, connection string. You'll have to save it. You'll have to, again, any change in the properties file, core properties file, PRD needs restart. So in In my case, yeah, so previously whatever credentials I had given, those are still valid, so it will work, so I am not going to restart. But we will quickly test if this connection is working. So open flights underscore connection is the name. Open flights is the JNDI name which we have configured here. This is the name, and we are going to, and don't forget to select JNDI. See, if you select native, it changes the input parameter sets. So you should select JNDI, open flights, and we will test. And you can see the first string, connection to database, okay. Now we can see here this connection. Whatever connections we are going to add, all gets piled up here on the left side. Now we'll use query designer. So there is a built-in way, in case you're not familiar with SQL, then Pentaho gives you feature wherein you can just drag and drop based on your requirement tables and columns. So we'll go to, you add one query. By default it is Pentaho is giving them query 1, and then here in static query, rather than you typing anything, just hit this edit button, and this is SQL query designer. Let me resize it to max so that we get a better view. Here on the left side, bottom pane, you can see the tables listed from open flights, the database. On the top left side, you can see the query. So far it is not, it is under development phase. On the right side, you can see the black workspace where we are going to drop the tables. Now here in the example, we are going to drop all three tables. So airport, airline, and route. So airport, airline, and route will drop airport, airline, and route. So you can have, it supports multiple selection. So using, it supports multiple selection but doesn't support multiple drops. So it has dropped airline. Now we will drop airport and route. You can see it is establishing the relationship. Relationship is already defined at database level, and designer is smart enough to link that. So in our case, this is the route table, and route has two foreign keys. One is airline ID. So obviously different airline flights are going to visit, basically will be part of that route. So that airline ID will be there, and that particular route will have airports linked. So that airport ID will also be there. And then airport in turn has the source as well as destination. So that's why there are two foreign keys. Now we'll arrange route at center, airline, and airport. By default, it is selecting all the fields, and if you see on the left side, it is already establishing the SQL query. So it has selected all fields from three tables from, and by default there is no where clause, there is no group by having if you want, you can go switch to syntax tab. At the bottom you can see besides designer. So by default it will open in designer mode. Besides designer there is a syntax tab. If you click, you can see this query. So this query is found. Now we don't want all the fields. So this is the schema. We have central table route, and which is connecting airlines as well as airports.